I'm Brendan here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short. And it's one must go as we return to the heady 90s / early noughties day of what genre, people? New metal. It is.
Melodeath. Oh, no.
Yeah, to be fair, the 90s was a heady time for a lot of different musical styles. But yeah, in this context, new metal is what we're focusing on. I have 20 one must go choices here. 40 bands who all sit within the new metal category or consider them a new metal. If you put in new metal bands into Google and it brings up that list along the top, all of these bands are featured. Now, there are one or two that I, truth be told, never really listened to. So I've tried to balance this out carefully of putting some of those ones up against other ones so they kind of just get past. But in theory, you will have heard of a lot of these. And in the case of one, some of them are more modern than you fucking think. Now, in the case of bands that were doing new metal stuff, but then moved on to do different things, forget what they did later. We're focusing on their new metal, what's considered a new metal part of their life.
Right. The Machine Head are in this then.
Oh, yes, they are. Yes, they are. You're actually right.
I thought that's who you were talking about.
Yeah. Actually, no, I was talking about the first band that's going to come up then, because it's Linkin Park.
Are we doing bands?
Yes, it's bands.
Oh, this is band. It's not songs, right?
No.
Although I suppose for some new metal, that's the same thing, right? You know, it's just a band with one song. But there we go.
No, it is specifically bands that fall into the new metal category. And we kick off, as I just said, with Linkin Park or Static X. So I've chosen these two because they both had a bit more of the electronica going on.
Yeah. It's weird, really, because I guess if both bands were still, you know, around today, I still probably wouldn't listen to either. I'm trying to think. All right, okay, so obviously Linkin Park are a fucking huge name. You know, they were massive, and of course I came across Linkin Park, and they must have had some impact on me, surely. Even if I don't look back at it as something that had any kind of direction on me, you know, I had. I don't even know if I owned the albums, but I definitely listened to the first two albums. I definitely owned the Jay-Z one, like the remix one.
Right. Okay.
Like, I can't remember what that was called, like Reanimated.
I can't remember what it's called either, but I know the one you mean. Yeah.
So Linkin Park had an impact, whereas on Static X, I only ever really liked a handful of Static X songs. I had like, you know, and most of that wasn't from like. Well, I don't know if it was because I don't really know the Static X albums brilliantly. So it was like stuff like from Black and White and that kind
Machine,
of.
The album,
but
Machine.
I don't know if that was like a first album or a 20th album. Like, do you know what I mean?
I think it was the third album.
So I don't really know anything from their first couple of albums, whereas Linkin Park I do. So I think I would say I'll keep Linkin Park and do Static X. I think because even though the impact was minimal, it still had more of an impact.
Fair argument. These are both bands that I was into during the era. Hybrid Theory was a banger for me and a right entry point into the harder side of metal. Big fan of it at the time. Of course, we did a track by track for Hybrid Theory probably over a year ago, if not longer. Go check out on the channel and hear us say some not very nice things about the latter half of that album. It does exist. It is the case. Well. Yes. However, Static X was a band I was listening to a lot more. I was listening to several of their albums and thoroughly enjoying it all along the way. Now, I was initially going to balance this based off the fact that I saw Static X live in a great venue and a great period in time and had a blast. But then I remembered I also saw Linkin Park a couple of years later in the Roundhouse, got free tickets based on a competition and got suitably drunk and had a blast. As you no doubt would happen. A couple of drinks in you, Linkin Park doing the hits. Yes, please. So I can't use that anymore. So I'm going to base this purely off the fact of like, what would I want to listen to right now? If you said to me, here's Hybrid Theory, and here is Wisconsin Death Trip. Which one would I want to listen to? And I'd bite your hand off to get Wisconsin, not Wisconsin Death Trip, Wisconsin Death Trip, the fucking state or city or wherever it is. That would be the album I'd want to listen to because that's got I'm With Stupid on it, which is like one of my favorite Static X tracks. So there it is, Static X for me. Okay, these two are together because they're weird. They were the weirdos at the time during new metal. Korn or System of a Down?
Oh.
We're starting off with the big ones.
Yeah, Korn is such a conundrum for me, but I guess I can forgive certain things because that came after this era.
Yep. Kind of
so
this
actually,
ends. Korn's new metal era technically, I guess, ends after Untouchables. Like Untouchables might be the end of it, whereas System of a Down, well, it's Toxicity.
Yeah. So I mean, the only reason I even stumbled or stuttered for a few milliseconds there was purely because of trying to drop some of the more, not modern now, but later life Korn stuff. Because aside from that, it would be Korn all day long.
Yep.
To be honest, I was a massive fan. They had a huge impact on me. Bought Adidas trainers only for about 5 years. Bought Adidas tracksuit bottoms. massive Korn fan. Absolutely loved them. So yeah, System of a Down, good band. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed very, very many songs and albums, but it's not even a battle between the two of them for me. It would instantly be Korn, who are probably the most impactful of the new metal bands on me and on many people, I'm sure, but
oh, for sure. I 100% agree with you in this one as well. Again, it comes down to me, pass me the album that defines the new metal era for me. And while naturally you want to go to Korn self-titled or you want to go to Follow the Leader, I'm more than likely to go to Issues, of course. An album, again, a track by track is there on the YouTube channel. You'll know if you watch that or you go check it out now that we love that album. We've got a lot of praise for it. Hamby Toxicity, I will still enjoy it, but I'm probably less inclined to enjoy it by modern standards because of the overplayed nature of certain tracks in it. I don't have that problem with Issues because it appeared that nobody really liked it. So no one was playing most of the fucking tracks. So it's a lot of safety there.
Fools.
Yeah, so there we go. Korn for that reason. Slipknot. So I guess we're talking self-titled and Iowa in a way to a certain degree, or Disturbed. Yep. And really, we're just probably talking about one album with Disturbed, and it's The Sickness.
Yeah, and we'll keep Slipknot. Both albums, even if you were just doing it on one album each. Slipknot self-titled against Disturbed, The Sickness. That's not to say that at a point in my life did I enjoy Disturbed's album. Yeah, I probably did. Probably got plenty of plays, to be honest with you, some of it anyway. Still know quite a bit of it now, and I guess that shows it had some impact.
Yep.
But I don't know it in the way like I know Slipknot self-titled. Like if you bring Iowa into the mix, it's a crushing defeat for Disturbed. But even just like weighing up those, like there's your album, there's our album, who's better? And it's like, yeah, there's no argument here.
Agreed. Yeah, you summed it up perfectly. Slipknot, no question. I think these next two bands probably at one point or another were the epitome of new metal. It's Cold Chamber or Soulfly.
Yeah. So out of the two bands, the band I enjoyed the most and would keep will be Soulfly. I just feel like I got there's more of it. I got more. There's more depth. There's more music. There's more interest. There's cooler members. It's got Max in it, and while I've got a lot of love for Des. Cold Chamber. Oh my god, what was it called? Was it called Sway? The first.
First album.
Yeah.
Oh, it's self-titled.
They're just self-titled.
Yeah.
All right. There's a couple of tracks on it that were fun for a while. Loco. There's a handful.
Sway. Yeah.
What's the other one? I can't. The stupid one at the end about the clock ticking.
Oh, fucking hell!
Tick tock.
Did I do the track by track review, or was it with Lou? I know it was a track by track for it, and I can't remember. No, it was with Lou. It was Lou, and I had a horrendous time with his album. Yeah.
But yeah, so it was a proper new metal album in that it came out, had a bit of impact, disappeared. Now I couldn't give a fuck about it. Whereas Soulfly, doesn't matter what they're doing now. Soulfly's debut album, I really enjoyed a lot. So much so that for my shame, I got their logo tattooed to my arm. That's how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But actually, Primitive Soulfly, I think there was a second album, was probably the one that I really got on board with, and actually probably their most new metal bit of work they did, even having Corey Taylor on there for a song like Jump the Fuck Up, and Benji Webb appears on a song at the end. So but yeah, I think I just got more out of Soulfly, man.
Same. You touched upon Dez, but truth be told, I love Dez for Devil Driver. I don't love Dez for Cold Chamber. And while I was young enough to get into the silliness and madness of Cold Chamber self-titled and stuff like that, everything that followed afterwards is pretty much wank. Chamber Music, Dark Days, these are not good albums. Soulfly continue to do good stuff as they move that new metal era anyway. But I do, you mentioned Primitive, and then I thought of Back to the Primitive, and I was like, that's a fucking tune. And I was like, right, put it on now. Carl, you get a choice. You can listen to Loco or Back to the Primitive. And again, I'm going to snatch your hand up and be like, put Back to the Primitive on. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to hear Loco.
Definitely, Soulfly were on the heavier end of new metal as well. I know they had songs with Fred Durst and all that on it, but they also had songs like even on the day, be like Eye for an Eye, which is Liar, stuff like that, which are heavy tracks still. So
yeah, just the era, man. Okay. Rap metal. And I feel like this is probably going to be a very simple choice, even though it's going to be quite painful to say it. Limp Biscuit or Crazy Town?
Yeah, well, Limp Biscuit.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, Limp Biscuit for all the taking the piss and everything out of that. I enjoyed Limp Biscuit for a period of time. I had like from a fun sort of perspective, not from a I'm taking this shit seriously or like, I'm gonna go out and buy a red cap or anything like that. Like, do you know what I mean? But whether it was some of the family value stuff as well, because I think that helps, because I was like so into Korn that I've got like Jonathan Davis, Fred Durst is popping up on tracks. All the bands that we've chosen so far, Fred Durst is popping up on Soulfly tracks, on Korn tracks, doing covers of Faith. And like I had fun with Limp Bizkit. I never had any fun with Crazy Town. They gave me nothing. No fun.
No, it's a strong point. Preempted it by saying it was an easy choice. And I just want to add that I think even now I can appreciate that Limp Bizkit had anthems on several of their albums, from $3 Bill You're All, probably more on Significant Other, and obviously on Chocolate Starfish, of course. And whereas Crazy Town, I'm like, okay, what songs? And I think of just one song, and it's that one song that I never, thankfully, no one ever seems to play it. So it seems like it's gone, So, whew. Okay, Deftones or El Nino?
Easy one for you, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because Deftones of that period is still, although Deftones of modern day, Deftones of the last decade or so is far superior to Deftones of the new metal era. The Deftones of the new metal era, White Pony and so on, beautiful stuff. This is made easier by the fact that as of the time recording, maybe about 5-6 months ago, we did a track by track for El Nino's self-titled album. No, was it self-titled? It's not self-titled, is it? Can't remember. Oh no, it's not self-titled. It's
Revolution. Yeah,
Revolution. And we did not have a good time with that record overall. So with that in mind, that makes it even easier. Deftones for me.
Yeah, and for me too, because even I mean, the only reason I had any kind of hesitation there is I really enjoyed my own Around the Fur. I also really enjoyed White Pony. Them two albums I really enjoyed, but then the problem is I then saw Deftones in that era, and they fucking sucked, man. Like it was one of, not the worst, but one of the worst shows I've ever seen. Like Guns N' Roses kind of dramas about not knowing the words, turning up late, couldn't be fucked, all that sort of stuff. And it's easy now with hindsight to look back at some of the shit that was going down in the band and the problems that they were having and demons they were fighting and facing and dealing with, But I didn't know that at the time. I just went to see a band that I was really enjoying and they fucking sucked. And that put me off Deftones massively to the point, but I probably never really recovered from it. So I listen to them occasionally, but I don't really put a lot of investment into them anymore. But I still think they're better. So,
Amazing. Okay, what are we up to? All right, Mudvayne or POD?
Okay, so this is proper new metal stuff. This as well, isn't it? Because even though I know they both had other stuff around it as well, instantly with Mudvayne, one track pops into my head, and instantly with POD, one track pops into my head. Out of the two, how do I choose this? I'm going back to my call center again, man. Like, okay, Brendan, you can only listen to one song while we have you on call for 2.5 to 3 minutes. You want to listen to Pod or dig, basically. And yeah, I think I'm weirdly I'm gonna go for POD, purely because I know them less. I don't think I'll get any massive enjoyment out of it, but hey, it'll be a bit newer and fresher. I really, there's nothing off LD50 or whatever it was, whatever the number was, that I particularly ever need to hear again.
Interesting. So this is actually really hard for me because both track by tracks have been done for LD50 and PODs. I cannot remember the name of the album, but it's the one with Alive and Youth of the Nation on it. And my initial thought was I remember having a horrendous time at LD50. Aside from the hits, you know, you dig, Nothing to Gain, Death Blooms. That album is downright painful, absolutely, and does that new metal thing of being way too fucking long with way too much filler. And then in recent times, this year alone, POD's album got done, and I thought it was one of the worst things I've ever heard. And the biggest problem for me was I didn't even like the hits. Like, I didn't enjoy them. I wasn't having fun. I wasn't enjoying it. Whereas at least with Mudvayne, Death Blooms comes on. I'm going to be like, okay, at least I can get into that. Nothing to Gain, dig. That's 3 tracks I think I can enjoy. Stick Alive on, stick fucking You for the Nation. I couldn't believe how shit that song is, re-listening to it. So yeah, for me, Mudvayne, because they're less shit.
And for me, it's POD because I just haven't re-listened to the album. So
we're on fire here. Oh God Almighty! Then is Papa Roach or Drowning Pool? So Papa Roach, Infest, Love Hate Tragedy is really the only albums you can take into account here.
Yep. You know, yeah. I mean, it's kind of strange because I guess, like, firstly, it's that whole thing again about, like, you know, it's choosing what method of torture you prefer to be killed by.
Yep.
You know, there's no right answer here. But I think out of the 2, I will keep Papa Roach. I don't even like saying that.
Yep.
Like, it hurts me saying it because, but the reason being is because there are a couple of tracks outside of, you know, the one,
yep.
which I don't even want to say its name, like, in case it suddenly, I don't know, starts
playing.
tracking on the internet, and every time I log onto Facebook, I get Papa Roach adverts or something like that. But from a Drowning Pool perspective, I never really kind of got into Drowning Pool, man. The only song that got played by Drowning Pool, it done my nutting after about 3 plays. It was on every fucking rock club, every fucking night. Drove me mad to the point that I didn't even want to listen to anything else at Drowning Pool. But I do think there are some other songs on Infest, and not many, but a couple of songs on Love Hate Tragedy that are okay as well, that I could get by with. So I'm going to go with Papa Roach.
I'm going to back you up on that, but I'm going to go on the basis of this. And I guess it's being mean to Drowning Pool if you want. So I don't really care. Papa Roach at least had some talent. You know, it wasn't stuff that was for me. I didn't really enjoy even at the time, beyond the obvious hits and stuff like that. But I thought Drowning Pool sucked back then, and I still think they suck now. And that track that we're not mentioning of Drowning Pool, I always want to throw in the mix with that is, of course, the actual title track from that album, Sinner. That was another one that got overplayed to fucking hell. And I thought that was worse. I thought that was always worse than the big one. Yeah, so by virtue of just being, again, not as shit, Papa Roach. Okay, I think this is going to be based more preference than anything else, because I'm not sure how much of the second band of this that you've ever listened to. It's Kitty or Incubus?
I never really gave either band a whole lot of attention, but I obviously knew a lot more about Kitty because back in the day there was females in a metal band, and that made Kerrang and every other mainstream thing. And
weird,
you know, so you couldn't not know who Kitty was. I never really listened to a lot of Incubus. I do know some Incubus, but you know, I was never a big fan or anything like that. I couldn't give a fuck about either band. I think out of 2 bands, if I was going to listen to something now, I'd probably be quite interested to go. I mean, maybe we'll do it the track by track one day to go back and, like, address Kitty, because it interests me more, like, out of the 2. I never really paid enough attention to either, so I'm going to choose Kitty based on purely on the idea that if somebody said, "Hey, got 2 bands from the past that you never listened to here, who would you like to check out?" I think, oh, I'll give Kitty a go. So there you go. I can't do that if I get rid of them.
I have a little bit more. I have a little bit more history with Kitty than you do, in that I was drawn to them as a young age, probably for the same reason why lots of teenage boys were drawn to Kitty. But obviously, when he got older, that horny teenager stuff disappears and gets replaced by musical chops and stuff like that. And I never thought Kitty were a great band. In fact, I actually saw them play the Underworld once, ran about late noughties, and I saw them shit the bed. To the point where I left like after half an hour, because I was like, man, this is wank, and just left, and that was it. However, as the years went by and I started checking it out, some of the later material, I grew a lot more appreciative of them. And then I watched this incredible documentary that I still believe is on Amazon Prime. If you ever got like an hour spare, go check out the Kitty documentary. It's really, really interesting and really give you a lot of detail. But this comes back to the hits more than anything else, and the things that really impacted me. And truth be told, I never listened to Incubus when they were properly around in the new metal era. It came later, and by that point, it was dated already. So it's not really fair in Incubus, but for me, Kitty had way more impact at the time than Incubus did. So Kitty.
Cool.
Puddle of Mud. Yeah, back then, remember as well, not yeah, because Jesus. Or Godsmack.
Okay. So back then, I'm trying to think, right? So I didn't really listen to Puddle of Mud. I knew the couple of songs. I knew she fucking hated me, or she fucking hates me, or she hates me, whatever it was. And I also really did like, for a point in time, to my shame, I was a big fan of the song Blurry. I thought it was a lovely song.
Fair enough.
Like, this song is lovely. And that's my Puddle of Mud history, man. That's all I got. I ain't got nothing else to go on other than those two tracks. Obviously trying to cut off any of the last probably 5 years plus of negative news stories, because dude's a dick. But anyway, Godsmack. I've actually seen Godsmack live, but I can't remember who with. I think I saw them. 1 Minute Silence. There was a couple of other bands like
that makes sense.
Brixton Academy, yeah, it was that right sort
of. I
can
picture it.
And I remember when I saw Godsmack live, I didn't know who Godsmack were at the time. I was relatively young, but anyway, and I watched it and I really enjoyed it in a live environment. I had a really good time. And off the back of that, I did listen to them a bit more, and I found that I preferred them in the live environment to on record, so I never really stuck with them. That's the truth of it. I've never really kind of gone on and become like a massive Godsmack fan. But out of the two of them, I have more love, I guess, through nostalgia and memory on Godsmack, so I'll keep them.
I'm choosing Godsmack based on this. I can't stand Puddle of Mud. I literally cannot stand them. You praise Blurry. A little part of me cringes inside when you even say that.
It hurts me to say it. I know, but we all had our flaws. That was one of mine.
Talking of which, we're going to talk about someone's band's flaws, if you wanted to. And that's been me, because we both like the album that's going to be referenced for this band. It is Machine Head. And of course, we're referencing the Burning Red specifically. Although you can, if you want, maybe chuck in Supercharger, maybe just here and there. But I tend to want to just stick with the Burning Red. Against Mushroom Head. So we're probably looking around X13 and even XX, the sort of compilation album as well, that kind of era.
So when we're doing this one, if we're with Machine Head, we're not getting rid of the band technically.
We'll get rid of the new metal era.
Oh, you're right. Okay, that's okay. We're like accidentally fucking getting rid of like Imperium and shit because I liked the Mushroom Head track,
Just remove their new metal era.
So I do like the Burning Red. I think it got that, it's got flaws. Of course it's got flaws, man. And the biggest flaw was that you can't expect people to listen to the More Things Change and then jump into the Burning Red and not somebody to raise an eyebrow. Of course they're going to.
Yeah, it's
Jesus
absurd.
Christ. The difference is night and day. And of course there are 1,000,001 rightly comical kind of moments that have come out of it, whether it's tracksuits and haircuts and all sorts of things. So, it's not a case of, I think people were unfair to the Burning Red at the time. I think they almost brought it on themselves. But I think people are unfair in the way they look back at it, because actually if you do listen to it now and try and drop some of that shit, now that Machine Head do fuck around with their styles. There's some really good songs on there. Great live songs as well. if you, it's a weird one. This right, this actually made more difficult for me because of recent Mushroom Head. Even though I know I'm not using that as part of my argument, but if I was to go back 2 years ago, I would say I haven't listened to Mushroom Head since those albums.
Right. Yeah, things have changed quite significantly.
You know what I mean? Which is almost kind of giving me like I don't know, like a rosier look back. Like I look back more fondly now. Like I've always loved Mushroom Head when I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, but the 13 in particular, I always enjoyed that as an album. Vocals are fucking amazing. Lots of great stuff. Fuck me. I want to keep the Burning Red. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep Machine Head.
Yeah.
New metal era. I'm going to keep it. Jesus Christ, that was harder than it needed to be.
It is difficult, but I'm going in the opposite direction. And it's more for a personal thing more than anything else. Of the two albums that I referenced, these bands, 13 and the compilation XX20 for Mushroom Head, I want to focus on that one more than anything else, is because I probably listened to that album there to the point where I didn't really learn it's what it actually was. I just presumed it was an album until much later on. So I was fascinated by that. But there's no track of Machine Head on the Burning Red that I can associate with any specific point in time or anything like that. While I still, as you said, I love a lot of the Burning Red, and said a lot of those tracks are bangers in the live environment. Desire to Fire and the introduction to that is the sort of shit that creates pits, man. But XX has one track specifically that I don't just associate with a time or place. I associate it with a moment in a book that Brendan knows very, very well. I am referencing The Dark Tower, the last book of The Dark Tower. And this song started to play by accident during the specific pages about the death of a major character. And it matched up and it freaked me out, and I thought it was stunning and I couldn't believe it. And now it's always stuck there in my head. That is why it's Mushroom Head.
No more the blood, the sweat, the beers. It's gone.
Yeah, I'm sure
I saved it, didn't I? So it's all right. You got both.
Well, I can make up for it by literally enjoying everything that came before and everything that came after, which is better. So there you go. Head PE, Head Planet Earth, or Spine Shank? Ooh, what choice?
It's actually relatively straightforward for me, purely because I never really listened to Head Planet Earth at all. I know who they were. I heard a couple of tracks. I never really got on board with any of it, but I did like Spine Shank for a very short period of time. An album, I think maybe 2 albums. I can't even remember the name of the albums, but I do remember. Weirdly enough, I do, even in my head now, I've got some of the songs going around like "Still I Waste Another Day of My Life." Like so instantly.
New Disease, the single.
New Diseases, I think I think it might be an album. I think you're right. Synthetic. Is that one, or is that a song? I have become synthetic. Weirdly, with Spine Shank, I've got some good memories there. Like some stuff popped straight into my head. I did find, and this is something that it's not really recent, but maybe like a couple of years back, when I can't remember why, but I was looking back at like some songs from the past or whatever that I was trying to look for, and I did download some Spine Shank songs. They ain't good these days. Don't listen to, like, even though I mean the old ones now, like, a lot of this new metal stuff didn't last in terms of sound, and Spine Shank are up there with that category. It sounds fucking dire now. So to the point where you're like, God, quickly delete them. I don't want anyone to think I ever liked that. That's terrible. Yeah. But but back in the day, I enjoyed a bit of Spine Shank. I did. So yeah, I'll keep them.
Same reason. Never really listened to Head Planet Earth, Head PE back in the day. I did listen to Spine Shank, and while my love affair was as brief as yours, it's the one I jumped to and at least point out and say, well, I did actually hear the music, the album you're referencing and stuff like that. You'd have asked me to name a Head PE song or album around that time, I'd struggle like fuck. So that's why. Okay, 1 minute silence. OMS or Snot?
No, neither band did I go on to become a huge fan of, but as I mentioned earlier on in the Godsmack thing, although I can't remember who I went there for, but 1 minute silence and Godsmack weren't the main acts. I was there for somebody and they were there with them, but I can't remember who it was. It may have even been Machine Head.
Screams like it right around the time, doesn't it?
And I think there was 4 bands there, and I think Machine Head were headlining, and then it was like Godsmack. There was somebody on before Godsmack. It was somebody, then Godsmack, then 1 Minute Silence. And I remember, like, this is the thing with it. Like, I know, you know, like random things. Like, I can't picture everything. It's like looking at a scene in your memory where everything's blurry, but like one little point is clear.
Yeah.
And on the columns of Brixton Academy, the front man was like more of like a kind of shouty, rappy, almost hard, what we call hardcore these days, for 1 Minute Silence, was out, and he came out into the crowd, and he kind of scaled very, very partly because there's not like actually climbing places on it, but so he was sort of standing up against the column, like up above the crowd, holding on to it and sort of singing from there.
Right.
And I remember that really clearly. I got nothing on Snot, other than that I know the name. I got nothing.
Really?
But you know, I got, if nothing else, I've got that one cool memory of being at a gig where I know I had a really good time, and 1 Minute Silence were part of that experience. So,
okay, so I put these two together because these are two bands that I'm very unfamiliar with, truth be told. I never listened to 1 Minute Silence during the new metal era, and I never listened to Snot. However, this past year, I did do a track by track for Snot album. I think it was self-titled. I can't quite remember. And I had a miserable time with that album, a really miserable time. So on that basis, just by not being that album, 1 Minute Silence, you win. Faith No More. So again, brief little period where they were considered new metal, even though I find that laughable, but there you go. Or Dry Kill Logic.
Okay. Dry Kill Logic. Jesus Christ, that's a name from the past.
Yeah, yeah. It's literally, this is where I'm pulling them off a list because I've got nothing on Dry Kill Logic. This is easy for me. Faith No More wins because I got nothing on Dry Kill Logic. But I just
I mean, literally the only reason I'm like I haven't already said Faith No More is because I'm trying to like rack through my aged brain to try and see if I've got any Dry Kill Logic knowledge whatsoever. But like I know the name instantly. It's not like, oh, who are they? I've never heard of them. I knew the name, so. But I've got nothing. I can't picture them. I can't hear them. I can't hear anything. I can probably hear them because they all fucking sounded the same, which is weird because Faith No More never did. So Faith No More will go through anyway, because even back then, you're right that they get categorized as it. They shouldn't.
Insane. It's just like we started lumping everything in the new metal if you sounded a little bit offshoot from what was considered heavy metal, as it were. Absurd. Yeah, we'll have to do a Dry Kill Logic album as a track by track then, I think, in soon rather than later, just to try and get some sort of memory there going.
Yeah.
Talking of then of the absurdity of lumping everything in new metal, I put these two up against each other because I thought it is fucking hilarious that both bands are considered new metal. One is American Head Charge, which based off one particular album, yes, new metal band. And then you have Alien Ant Farm, who are also considered a new metal band. Go with that one. Take your choice.
Very different, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's quite easy actually because the Art of War or the War of Art. I can't remember the name of the
War of Art. It's the War of Art. I remember because it's got the paintings and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I really liked that album back in the day. I really did. I had a lot of fun with that album. I listened to it quite a lot. Very much enjoyed it. Alien Ant Farm. I got a couple of songs, man. One of them's a cover, and also, like I don't really want to listen to either anymore. That's the truth of it, But I guess out of the two of them, I'd probably have more of a nostalgia trip and a bit more fun with American Head Charge, I think, than if somebody made me like listen through an Alien Ant Farm album. So I'll keep American Head Charge. Yeah,
I second that. I never want to listen to them again. Being old as well and understanding certain lyrical content of American Head Charge's album as well does not make it for an easy listening these days either. But it's not even just because of that. It's because it is a nostalgia trip more than anything else. And I'm not always a big fan of doing nostalgia trips when it comes to music in any context that's not just I'm down a pub or in a club or whatever club, like I fucking go to a club these days. No, but you know what I mean? Like, and someone puts on a jukebox and they're like, oh, what do you ever listen to? Carl, do you want to listen to, I don't know, Just So You Know by American Head Charge? And I'm going to cringe. Or would you like to listen to Smooth Criminal by Alien Ant Farm? Before they've even finished that, I'll be taking the pound coin out of their hand and putting it in a jukebox to choose American Head Charge just because. Fuck that. And the other stuff around that, I know it's just a cover of other songs, but nobody gave a shit about any other song they fucking did.
The only other one I even have any recollection of is movies. That's it. I've got nothing outside of that.
That comes on a later album. So like that.
Oh, is it later?
Yeah. Yeah. Move on. Again, I feel like this one is so straightforward, but these are new metal bands. Edema, if you remember and know Edema, or Fear Factory.
Wow. Fucking new metal band. Fear Factory. Is that just because he had some purple hair dye? Is that it?
It's Digimortal,
even Digimortal, it's still not new metal in anything else that gets categorized as new metal. It's just because they've cleaned up the sound a little bit and had a bit of hair dye.
I would argue that one song made it new metal, and that was Lynch.
Yeah,
that was it. Yeah.
But yeah, no, Fear Factory stay all day long. I never really listened to Edema anyway. Again, name that I know, but without anything sparking, musically or anything like that. But yeah, I can get rid of Fear Factory, man. Of course, Digimortal was a good album as well. That's the thing. It's not even like a shameful album. It's not there. It's not even in their probably in their top 4 or 5 albums, but it's not a bad album.
No, I agree. Do go check out something like Invisible Wounds, which is an absolute bang of a track. It is as simple as that. Fear Factory for me too. Okay, we're near the end now. Amen or Power Man 5000?
Oh God, 2 bands I couldn't give a fuck about. Wonderful. But get rid of both. Can I do that?
No, you got to choose one, innit?
All right, I will keep Amen for having a slightly less shit name.
I'm going to keep Amen for We Have Come For Your Parents. That album I listened to the shit out of back in the day. Recently did a track by track for it, and some of those tracks still hold up.
Give me like a, what's Amen's big hit? Like, give me a hit, because I know the band. No, I might probably need to hear it. It's just a holiday for
you. You'd know it if you heard it.
Yeah.
Justified? No,
I don't know. I know the band, and I can picture like something in my head, like possibly from a music video or something like that, but I can't sync it up. But I know that I was never a fan. I don't think I've ever given Power Man 5000 any time whatsoever. So yeah.
I feel like though the general consensus in this would be Power Man 5000. If you asked a room full of 100 metalers, more people would lean towards Power Man 5000, because I know they're a surprisingly popular band, even though I know very little by them.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I should go with them so I could be cool.
It's another track by track for the future, just to learn something a bit about this band. Okay. Kid Rock or Rob Zombie?
Well,
yes.
Well, I mean, I'm going to keep Rob Zombie out of the 2 because there ain't nothing about Kid Rock I ever really wanted to listen to. I never really got any fun out of Kid Rock. I was a bit past this era by Kid Rock. Kid Rock wasn't like, in my memory, Kid Rock came out like near the back end of the kind of new metal stuff. That's how I remember it. I don't know if that's true or not. But I was listening to like Korn, and I was listening to all that sort of stuff. Like Kid Rock wasn't out when I was listening to like Life is Peachy and stuff. Or if he was, I wasn't aware of him. And he kind of came out later. And by then I was already long done with it.
Oh, you're not wrong. God, when right. So we did Devil Without Cause, Devil with a Cause, Without Cause, whatever that one is, for track by track. And I'm pretty sure it's late 90s. I can't remember the exact date, but for some reason my head's 98 and 99. And
I'm sure, like many people, he was probably like, doing stuff in America and all that. But I think like before it started becoming like a big thing over here, like all those, a lot of the other bands we've already talked about had like been long been and done for me. Like, do you know what I mean? I was like, oh, I enjoyed this album, but I've moved on. I was starting to listen to different things, and then Kid Rock come out. So I never really I never got anything out of Kid Rock. Not even like, oh, this is a good fun party song. I never even got that. I was just like, what the fuck? This is shit. I remember actually, and this is a true story. It's not a very interesting one, but it's still a true one. But I remember like my dislike of Kid Rock even existed back in the day, because I do remember one friend of mine in particular who I used to go to gigs with when I was younger, a lot younger. I remember his parents buying him 2 tickets to go and see Kid Rock play at the Astoria, and he said like he assumed I would come with him, but I chose not to, and he went to it and he had a horrible time. I don't know if he went with anyone or not, but I was like, even though I was young and I had a free ticket, now I still didn't want to go. But I kind of remember that. So, you know, out of that, purely because I've just got nothing for Kid Rock, got nothing at all, no love, no affinity, no. At least there was that one song.
Yep.
Like, do you know what I mean? I've got nothing. So, I don't like Rob Zombie massively. Like, that's the thing musically. I was never a big White Zombie fan. I was never a big Rob Zombie fan musically. But I guess if I had to listen to one of the two, if I had to watch one of the two live, you know, I still, even though I don't think I'd enjoy myself a wonderful amount of time, I still probably rather watch Rob Zombie than I would Kid Rock. You know, I can't imagine what horror the Kid Rock show would be.
God. Yeah, that's that. Thankfully, I don't think there's ever something we're ever really going to experience these days as well, more than anything else. You know, you talk about songs. I mean, ultimately, Rob Zombie's got that, or he's got off this era one or two tracks that I can at least. I don't use the word enjoy because I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
And for years, everybody told me, "Oh, it's because you've never seen him live." Then I saw him live twice in the same year, and both times I thought he was shit. So like, I remember, and the joke was, after seeing him live twice, both times the same people turned around and said to me, "Oh, he normally does better than this." I was like, "Right, so you've changed it again. You've changed it again. You're first telling me that I needed to see him live to appreciate him. Saw him live, didn't like him, and now you're turning around. Oh no, you just didn't see him at his best. What the fuck?" Whereas I don't think I'll ever see Kid Rock at his best.
No. I can't imagine. I feel like it'd be horrific, man. I feel like it'd just be people like swaying and doing like that, you know.
Yeah. Rob Zombie from me. Right, we got two more: Evanescence or Flyleaf.
I keep Evanescence just because I don't know Flyleaf.
Yeah,
I don't know them. I keep Evanescence. I mean, do you know? I won't even get rid of the song because, like, I get to do the rap bit, don't I? Wake me up. That's always fun, no matter what. So.
Oh mate. Yeah, I'm going to keep Evanescence based off your reasoning there as well. Flyleaf are a name that pops up all the time in the new metal list, and I'm constantly like, yeah, I got to check an album out by this band because I don't know anything by them, and I just never get around to doing it because I suspect I probably may not like it. So why waste my time? The last one is two modern bands that are bringing new metal back if you want. So you'll know one for sure. The other, I'm not sure if you'll have heard anything by. One is Hollywood Undead. The other is Cane Hill.
You're right, as in I don't know an awful lot by Cane Hill. I do know who Cane Hill are. I don't know if I know any songs by them. I'm assuming that's the one you meant.
Yep.
Hollywood Undead I know quite well.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep Cane Hill. And the reason I'm going to keep Cane Hill is because I don't like Hollywood Undead. And I've not listened to Cane Hill before, so hey, at least I can check it out and then make a decision later to get rid of them in the future.
Okay, so I do know Cane Hill quite well. In fact, I'm the fucker that's reviewed their stuff on the website. I also know Hollywood Undead well as well during the pandemic, having focused a little bit of time on them by getting early access to their live streams they did and watching some of that and reviewing it. And after that experience, I was like, I still don't like Hollywood Undead, but I can certainly appreciate and understand what they're getting across and the fact that they believe in it and they're energized. And I ended up at least appreciating it. I can't. I think Cane Hill is shit. Absolute shit. And so Hollywood Undead, but they're not as shit. And at least I buy it more with Hollywood Undead. They've been around a lot longer. They've been going a lot harder. And you know, there's elements where it's like, okay, you're combining a lot of different stuff. Whereas Cane Hill's thing seems to have been, we're going to try and revive new metal exactly as new metal was in the 90s. And it's like, are you fucking high? No.
I haven't had the chance to learn to hate them yet. So for me, it's like, well,
they have plenty of work out.
A band I don't like and a band I don't know. So yeah.
Yeah, for me, Hollywood Undead. But that's it. There's the new metal. And that pretty much is all of them. There might be one or two we missed, but of the big hitters, we touched upon them all. I initially, when I did this list, thought I was only going to do 10 because I was like, I don't like a lot of these bands just don't work for me. But we've managed 20. So what do you reckon? Got any recommendations on what we should check out in regards to the bands we don't know? Or do you have different opinions to us? You know what to do. Drop them in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal, what else is life for?